All right, so tactics of B2B. Well, actually, what I'm trying to do is I'm addressing people who have built a web app, a service that can help e-commerce startups, and help them figure out how to get their customers. To explain what I mean, the focus here is going to be on app vendors rather than on e-commerce startups. A little bit about myself before I get started. As Dave mentioned, I'm currently running the Yahoo Small Business Group for Yahoo. I'm VP and head. Previous to that, I started a company called Lexity, which was acquired by Yahoo. Previous to that, I was VP of product at a company called Dapper, which was acquired by Yahoo. Before that, I was director of product at Yahoo. So yes, yes, I bleed purple. It is what it is. Now, as I said, there are three, in a very, very simplified manner, there's app developers, service providers who are helping retailers. Dropship Commerce is an example from earlier in the day, and they in turn have customers. This talk is going to focus on the app developers and not on the retailers. And I'm also focusing it on people who have gone through these steps already. So they already have figured out, here's a product, early validation, reach the product market fit, have some customers, 10, 50, 100, and now they're trying to figure out how to get to the next 10,000, right? So it's really about the growth phase. As I mentioned, I am a 500 mentor as well, so I talk to a lot of startups, and a few of those startups have problem in making this transition from product to distribution. There's this great quote by Ben in this interview. Ultimately, Pinterest didn't need better engineering, said Silverman, it needed better distribution. So what I want to focus on today is distribution. How do you get your service? How do you get 10,000 e-commerce merchants or retailers onto that service? All right. Presumably, if you've reached this point, you have an understanding of what market segments you're focusing on. The decisions that you make about distribution channels rely heavily on having figured this out. Right? A lot of people will transition, that's okay. But understanding whether you're focusing on small customers as the size of the retailers, mid-size, or enterprise. For example, if you look at a distribution landscape, and this is a little bit fuzzy. There's sales in here, there's marketing in there, but just talking about various channels to acquire customers. You divide them into which ones are most relevant for these segments. This is roughly what it looks like. I'm going to talk about each in turn, a couple of minutes. Viral adoption works really well for small businesses. Now, small SMB retailers. Now, you have to be careful here because typically businesses don't talk to each other as much as consumers talk to each other. So very specific viral loops need to be built. If your product is actually viral in itself. So for example, if the end customers, the customers of the retailers that are your customers are sharing a post-purchase, doing a post-purchase tweet or something, then your product name might get out and other retailers might notice and sort of start using you as well. But it's a little bit tougher. If you are in the context of marketplace, like an Etsy type of a customer, you can use that marketplace as a way to go get some viral adoption as well. Bundling with apps, other app providers who have a similar audience and are not competitive, obviously a co-bundling deal can go a long way. Moving to more of a mid-size sort of enterprise customer base, web design firms. This is something that I haven't seen done as much across the board. A lot of the small to mid-sized customers actually don't set up their sites themselves. They might think that they're setting up a Shopify store, think that they're setting up a big commerce store, but actually they're going through design firms or consultants. So that is a very important channel. If you can create a bunch of those relationships and those guys talk to each other, then that is a better way to go get a large number of mid-sized customers. As companies will get bigger, they will specialize. So the same contractor, consultant that helped them set up the website is not going to be the ones helping them with their online advertising needs. So you'll start seeing ad agencies come in. So if your target market is actually a bigger customer base, then you probably want to talk to ad agencies if you have an ad product, and similar examples across the board. Now, online advertising. So I haven't talked about ads at all. So if you're thinking of doing search marketing and your focus is very small customers, think again. The the dynamics of the market are such that you'll be competing with, on the same keywords, on people that are trying to get big enterprise customers. So if your cost of acquisition is similar to the big guys, but the return, the lifetime value is much lower because your customers are smaller, they can't spend as much on your service as some of the bigger products, it's not going to work out. So I would not recommend things like search marketing unless you're targeting a larger customer base. Now, you can still get by a combination. So if you have a content marketing play, you drive people to your site and then do retargeting for your products. Those models can be made to work for smaller customers. But really, online marketing works only if your lifetime value is really high, so the higher end of the customer base. And of course, if you go enterprise sales is basically the way to go. And you can transition to that over a period of time, start with a SaaS play for mid-size and go to enterprise, and that's OK. I do want to drill a little bit deeper into app marketplaces. So that's a relatively new phenomenon where you have platforms like Shopify, BigCommerce, even Intuit. Salesforce has its platform. You can appify your product and get it in their marketplace. What does that ecosystem look like? I want to talk about that for a few minutes. One of the things to understand fairly quickly is how does this target addressable market that you have fit in terms of the platforms that exist, right? So if you are targeting a small customer base, they're not going to be on Magento, right? They're not going to have the technical expertise to set up their own operation, right? So you'll tend to see them on either cloud-hosted platforms or marketplaces. Conversely, if you have customers who are being successful on marketplaces, on the Etsy's and Bonanzas of the world, once they hit a certain point, certain GMV, they will start migrating to, hey, I want to run my own store. And they'll hit a limit where it's not cost effective. They'll say, OK, I want to run my own servers. So you'll see that migration happen. Understanding where your customers reside is important because that tells you how your channels can be leveraged. Let me explain what I mean. Each of these platform types, Shopify, BigCommerce, Magento, they are making money in different ways. But they individually have tens of thousands of merchants that are connected with them. So if they promoted your product, your service to those customers, you could both make a lot of money. But how do they make money? So let's talk about their revenue models. Self-hosted platforms, Magento being an example, typically make money through support, professional services, sort of a Red Hat model, right? Obviously, this is a gross generalization just to get you guys a sort of a framework. But the meta point, by the way, is that understand how your partners are actually making money and how your relationship with them can drive their own revenues. So self-hosted professional services. So actually going back to support and professional services, so what does that mean in practice? If the product that you have causes that platform to be able to sell it in a manner that their customers will pay for professional services. Let's say you have like a great whiz-bang software solution. The only way a Magento customer can use it is by paying eBay a little bit of money to do that integration. They're happy because they'll make some money out of it, right? So it doesn't mean that you should have a complicated product, but the point is if you had a complicated product, then there's a sort of incentive structure that is aligned. Similarly, add-on features. A lot of the cloud-hosted platforms and self-hosted platforms will make money on a second, third-tier product offering. If your product requires an upgrade by the customer, they make more money. For a long time, Volusion had a tiered plan where API access to Volusion stores was only available for premium customers. So if a developer came in, had a great new service that required API integration, the customer had to move up. So Volusion was happy, customer was happy because they got this new service. Incentives got aligned. App Rev Share. In some of the platforms, Shopify, BigCommerce, the platform shares revenue with the app developer, right? So if you have a really, really successful app that is not free because they make no money on the rev share there, but it is actually a paid app and it has adoption like wildfire, then it is really beneficial for the platform as well. So they're more likely to promote it as well. Monthly fees, marketplaces, cloud-hosted monthly fees is where they make a lot of their bread. Obviously, if you are helping increase the LTV for their customers, they make more money. This is sort of obvious. If you're providing value to the customers will be more successful, they'll make more money. But the more direct that you can make it, the more you can show them data that, look, you're not working with us right now, but I have 500 customers on your platform already, and they are making tons of money, and here's how it has impacted you. Why don't we go to the rest 25,000 of your customers and sell them the same thing, and it'll be successful for you and me. Transaction rev share. In some of the platforms make money, take a percentage of the revenue of the end sales of their customers. So if you're selling organic, cotton clothes online, every time you sell something, the platform takes a small percentage. If you can increase transaction volume for your customers, and again, prove it in a certain way, then incentives are aligned. There's a very clear theme here, which is figure out how you can help your channel make more money, and they're more likely to promote you. It's not always about, hey, it's good for your customers. So it's good for your customers, and here's the model that explains how you'd make more. And then finally, listing fees, where each time a product is listed, very common in marketplaces, you make more money. So if your product or service helps your customers manage 10x more SKUs than they could do yesterday, they will list 10K more things, 10x more things today, and the marketplace will make more money. So that's another example of how you're connecting the various things together. A few other thoughts on the app marketplaces. It's very important to understand the dynamic of these marketplaces. There's a puzzle model and there's a hub and spoke model. The puzzle model refers to where a service creates a marketplace that surrounds its offering, because without the union of all of those offerings, the customer can be successful. An example would be if you set up and create an online store, let's say on Shopify, and you are not also adding a chat function, not also putting something put together for CRM, not also marketing, your site will not be successful. You have to acquire customers. So there's a totality of services that needs to be brought together. So that's sort of the model that Shopify or Yahoo stores, for that matter, has. The hub and spoke refers to when you have a core service, there's tons of other integrators who are using your APIs to sort of add sort of connectivity, and you just want to list them out, right? So QuickBooks, there's a bunch of services that connect with QuickBooks in some manner. They're not critical to your core function, but you're helping your customers figure out what else they can connect with, right? So the motivations here are different. If you know that if you as a platform know that all of these other services are important, right, then you're more likely to promote it, versus hub and spoke, where it's just like an integration directory. You're not going to have focus on it. So understand the strategic importance to the platform. Technical integration costs. Not all platforms have done a great job at either simplifying integration to their platform or being clear about how simple it is to integrate with them. So either they are in fact complex, or they're not complex, but it looks pretty daunting. Most of the cases you can get by sort of loose integration that allows you to get there, see how well it's going, and then double down if it's actually showing signs of growth, right? So understand that, and certainly tactical focus and resources. All of us are resource strapped. So are big companies. So are medium-sized platforms. Understand where they are in their evolution. Is this the time when they just launched the marketplace and are putting a lot of marketing effort? Your boat can get lifted up with that tide, or is it something they were interested in last year and not so much anymore? Just being listed in a marketplace is not going to be inherently successful. There's a lot of help that the platform will need to give you in order to be successful. That's just the way it is. In fact, the kind of things in that context to be aware of, be very careful about ratings and reviews in the app marketplaces. Think about two shoes that you're comparing on Amazon, and one has one negative rating and one has no ratings at all. You might go for the one that you don't know anything about, rather than the one that has like a one rating, which is like a 1 star, right? in the end, it's people, right? So think about how you react to ratings and reviews. So it's very important to keep an eye on how you're in the marketplace. Forum boards, often overlooked, especially for small and medium-sized enterprises. There's a lot of conversation, there's a lot of chatter in forum boards that you need to pay attention to, and make sure that you are, some of your people are frequenting those boards. Support and sales organizations of these platforms have a tremendous way in making their customers' decisions, right? Each time someone calls in and say, hey, I'm leaving your platform because it doesn't have feature X. The way they solve that problem is, oh, we don't have feature X, but here a third-party developer does, right? And so we'll help you get on that, get that drop shipping platform, even though we don't have it. So it's very useful to have these relationships built ahead of time with support, with sales. And of course, if you can go the business development route and do deeper integrations where the platforms are willing to do that, that is beneficial too. There's a whole section on marketing promotions. Many other platforms will promote you within the control panel, like literally every time a person logs in, you're there being promoted. If you can get in the order flow, like each time someone buys one of their SKUs or upgrades, you might get promoted there. So there's a lot of things that can actually happen. Ongoing conversation really helps. Here's a case study, Yahoo Small Business, right? So we, for example, have web hosting, e-commerce, local businesses. Each of these has its own app marketplace, sort of one platform that serves all three. Well over 1 million subscriptions, one of the largest SMB players with credit cards on file and everything. So here, Yahoo has a Commerce Central marketplace. This is what came through the Lexity acquisition. So this is where all the apps get listed. And then, because I happen to be there, we are putting a heavy focus on making the startups and service providers successful. Well, clearly, no platform can build all of these things. So we are focused on bringing third parties on board. And then, which means that this is about understanding the motivations. Since our motivation is to make our third-party partners successful, that means we are more likely to do promotions and co-marketing and things of that nature. And obviously, the integration is very simple. You build it once, and it applies to e-commerce, applies to websites, applies to local marketplaces. So, so in this particular case, you know that you are more likely to have your services distributed versus a marketplace or a platform which might be trying to build all of these solutions themselves. So, what's the interest level is important to understand. All right, so this is it. Here's my information. You can reach me on Twitter at @Kumar, and please go check out Commerce Central. Any questions?
Is there good data on anywhere available on which verticals or retailers use which platform?
Verticals. I haven't seen any public, like a nice sort of public data. I think if you look at the verticals and how big the retailers in that vertical happen to be, that should give you a very clear idea. So people who are looking at sort of wholesale, high volume, will tend to be on the Magentos, and a lot of sort of handcrafted items will end up being on Etsy. So it follows that.
You mentioned using app marketplaces. Do you have any advice on the creation of app marketplaces?
Yeah, so good question. The question is, do you have any advice on creation of app marketplaces? Well, having created one at Lexity for 4 years, I can tell you that it's having a distribution strategy for that app marketplace is important, right? If you know what I mean, because why are people going to come there at all, right? No one is actually looking for app marketplaces. They're looking for solutions to their problems. So they tend to get connected with platforms that have a sort of a demand for the services, and then they create a marketplace around it. We were different in that we did have that goal that, like, if we could create an app marketplace, we build it, they will come, and Yahoo came before the customers did, but together we are sort of stronger. So
given that we already have demand.
Given that we already have demand.
Right.
what to focus on? Is that what you mean?
Right, for the developer.
Well, I think with every marketplace, it's liquidity, right? So if you have suppliers of services and you have demand, then the question then in a marketplace is matching. So those are the three things that you have to resolve. I'm out of time. Thank you so much for your patience.